Warning: do not try this while listening. Do not stand in front of a mirror tonight. And whatever you do, do not say her name 3 times in the dark, because some games were never meant to be played. Across the United States, from sleepovers in quiet suburbs to college dormitories and abandoned school bathrooms, one ritual has survived for generations without losing its power. Stand before a mirror in darkness, light a candle, and say Bloody Mary 3 times. Simple, childish, harmless. That's what people think, till the air changes. The legend of Bloody Mary is one of the most widespread supernatural rituals in American folklore. But what makes it terrifying isn't just the story, it's the consistency. Different states, different decades, different witnesses, yet the details remain disturbingly similar. A pale woman, hollow eyes, blood on her face. Sometimes she screams, sometimes she scratches, sometimes she pulls the person into the mirror. Historians have tried to trace her origin, and several disturbing theories emerge. Some believe she is connected to Mary I of England, whose violent persecution of Protestants earned her the nickname Bloody Mary. But there is little evidence that American children chanting in bathrooms were invoking a 16th century monarch. Others connect her to Elizabeth Bathory, the infamous Hungarian countess accused of bathing in blood. Though again, folklore rarely follows strict historical accuracy. The more compelling theory is psychological and far more unsettling. In the 1960s and 70s, psychologists studying mirror-gazing experiments discovered something now known as the strange face illusion. When a person stares into their reflection in low light for an extended period, the brain begins to distort facial features. Shadows stretch, eyes darken, the face appears unfamiliar, monstrous. The mind, deprived of clear visual data, fills in the blanks. But here, as the part researchers Dan T like to discuss publicly, some participants reported seeing faces that did not match their own at all. Not distortions, not exaggerations, entirely different entities staring back. One 1998 case from a suburban town in Ohio involved 4 teenage girls performing the ritual during a sleepover. They locked themselves in a bathroom just after midnight. A single candle, lights off, phone recording. They chanted her name 3 times. At first, nothing happened. They giggled, mocked the legend. Then one of them stopped laughing. She later testified that the temperature in the room dropped instantly. The candle flame bent sideways, as if something had exhaled across it. And in the reflection behind them stood a tall woman with stringy dark hair covering her face. When they turned around, nothing was there. But when they looked back at the mirror, the woman was closer. The recording ended with screaming and the sound of glass shattering. The parents claimed the mirror had cracked from the inside outward. Police found no intruder, no fingerprints, just 4 girls in hysterics, and a bathroom mirror fractured in a spiderweb pattern. Urban legend, maybe. But similar reports surface again and again across the United States, in Texas, California, Illinois, New York. The ritual rarely causes physical harm, but psychological consequences are common. Night terrors, sleep paralysis, persistent fear of reflective surfaces. In some rare accounts, claw marks appear on bathroom walls. 3 vertical scratches, always 3. Folklorists classify Bloody Mary as a mirror-summoning entity, part of a broader category of global reflection-based spirits. Mirrors have long been associated with portals. In Victorian mourning traditions, mirrors were covered after death to prevent spirits from becoming trapped. In some Appalachian communities, it was believed that saying a dead person's name in front of a mirror could anchor their soul to the glass, which raises a terrifying possibility. What if Bloody Mary is not one spirit, but a doorway? What if the ritual does not summon a specific entity, but instead opens something, allowing whatever is nearest to step through? In 2006, a paranormal investigation group attempted to scientifically document the ritual. Multiple cameras, EMF detectors, thermal imaging. They performed the chant in an abandoned Pennsylvania farmhouse bathroom at 3 a.m. For the first 2 attempts, nothing occurred. On the third attempt, the lead investigator reported feeling a pressure on his chest. The EMF meter spiked briefly, and the thermal camera captured a cold spot directly in front of the mirror shaped roughly like a human head and shoulders. Moments later, a loud knock echoed from inside the wall behind the mirror. The team fled. The footage was uploaded briefly, then removed. Official explanation: electrical interference. But the investigators never performed the ritual again. Here's where the legend grows darker. Some versions say she will scratch your eyes out. Others say she drags you into the mirror world. A less-known variation claims that if she appears smiling, you will die within 7 days. If she appears crying, someone close to you will. And if she does not appear at all, she may already be behind you. The most chilling aspect of Bloody Mary isn't her violence, it's her accessibility. No ancient forest required, no cursed object, no forbidden tomb, just a mirror, something found in every home, something you stand in front of every day without fear. That familiarity is what makes her powerful, because the ritual doesn't feel dangerous until it works. And maybe that's why it has survived for decades in American culture. Passed from sibling to sibling, friend to friend, each generation daring the next to try it, laughing at first, screaming later. There is one final detail that researchers quietly note. Most encounters occur between midnight and 3:33 a.m., the so-called witching hour, the liminal space between days, the hour when reflections seem slightly delayed if you stare long enough. Try it tonight. Stand in darkness, light a candle, watch your own face fade into shadow. You'll notice something strange. Your eyes don't blink at the same time. Your smile lags by half a second. And for the briefest moment, it doesn't feel like you're looking at yourself. It feels like something is studying you, waiting for permission, because Bloody Mary may not need you to say her name anymore. You've already looked into the doorway, and sometimes the doorway looks back. This is only part 1, and the deeper we go into this legend, the less it feels like a children's game and the more it feels like a test. In part 2, we uncovered documented psychological breakdowns, alleged disappearances linked to the ritual, and the disturbing theory that Bloody Mary evolves with each generation that summons her. Subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a nightmare. Warning: if you have ever tried the mirror ritual before, this may explain what followed. And if you haven't after this, you won't want to. Because the most disturbing cases connected to Bloody Mary are not the ones where something appears in the glass, but the ones where something changes afterward. Throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s across the United States, scattered reports began surfacing in school, counselor logs and local police notes. Teenagers complaining that mirrors felt wrong. Not haunted, not possessed, just wrong. They described subtle delays in reflection, smiles that faded too slowly, eyes that seemed darker in glass than in photographs. Most of these cases were dismissed as imagination fueled by sleepover dares. Yet a pattern quietly formed. Nearly all of them had attempted the Bloody Mary ritual within the previous week. In 1994, a middle school in Illinois documented 3 separate students refusing to enter bathrooms alone after claiming they saw a woman standing behind them in the mirror reflection. Security footage showed no one entering or exiting the restroom during those times. The school psychologist attributed it to mass hysteria. But what unsettled staff was the consistency of the description: pale skin, long black hair, partially covering the face, and a mouth stretched too wide to be natural. One student claimed the reflection mouthed words that did not match her own speech. Another insisted it whispered, "Stay." Here's where folklore intersects with psychology in a way that refuses to separate cleanly. Studies on prolonged mirror gazing show that the brain, when deprived of stable visual cues, begins generating alternate facial interpretations. It's called facial dissociation. But dissociation typically produces warped versions of oneself, not entirely separate identities. So why do so many Bloody Mary witnesses report seeing a woman who is not them? Why do descriptions remain eerily similar across states that never interacted? A 2001 case from rural Texas involved a group of 5 teenagers who performed the ritual inside an abandoned farmhouse. According to police interviews, nothing visible happened during the chanting, but on the drive home, the driver became hysterical, claiming she could still see the woman in the rearview mirror. She swerved violently and crashed into a roadside ditch. No fatalities. However, she later told investigators that the face in the mirror was smiling while everyone else was screaming. She refused to sit near reflective surfaces for months afterward. In another incident in upstate New York, a college student documented her attempt on a handheld camcorder as part of a folklore project. She stood in her dorm bathroom at 2:47 a.m., candle lit, lights off, repeating the name 3 times. At first, nothing. Then the flame flickered downward instead of upward, as if pulled. She gasped and stepped back. Playback later revealed something she claimed she did not see at the time. During the 3rd repetition of the name, her reflection's mouth stopped moving half a second before her real mouth did. A delay, subtle, but visible frame by frame. Skeptics called it video compression artifact. She withdrew from the project and deleted the footage within a week. What makes the Bloody Mary legend unique in American folklore is its participatory nature. Unlike haunted houses or cursed objects, the ritual requires consent. You must stand there. You must say the name. You must look directly into the glass. In folklore theory, that is called voluntary invitation, and once invitation is granted, folklore suggests boundaries weaken. Across Appalachian traditions in the United States, it was long believed that mirrors function as spiritual thresholds. When someone died, families covered mirrors so the departing soul would not become trapped. In some southern communities, breaking a mirror was said to release something, not just bring bad luck. Bloody Mary may be a modern evolution of those older beliefs, repackaged into a dare that children underestimate. There's another disturbing layer rarely discussed: auditory phenomena. Many witnesses claim they did not initially see anything but heard breathing that did not match their own rhythm. Slow, wet, close. A 2013 case in California involved 2 teenage boys mocking the ritual in a friend's bathroom. They chanted the name loudly and laughed. Moments later, the bathroom door slammed shut with force strong enough to crack the hinge. They insisted no wind or draft was present. One boy later admitted he heard breathing directly behind his ear before the slam. He turned instantly, no one there. When he looked back at the mirror, he claimed the face staring back had hollow eyes. Not darkened, hollow, as if depth had been removed entirely. And here's the detail that appears in multiple accounts: 3 marks, on mirrors, on walls, on skin. Always 3, parallel, vertical. In 2018, a high school in Ohio reported a girl who fainted after attempting the ritual during lunch break with friends. When she regained consciousness, faint red scratches were visible along her forearm. She insisted she felt fingers dragging across her skin moments before blacking out. Medical staff found no explanation. The scratches faded within 48 hours. Whether psychosomatic or not, the pattern remains consistent with decades of legend. So what is Bloody Mary? A tulpa formed by collective belief, a psychological projection amplified by darkness, or something older that simply adopted a name children would dare to speak. The entity adapts. In the 1970s, she appeared as a rotting corpse. In the 1990s, she resembled a pale Victorian woman. In modern retellings, she sometimes appears faceless entirely. This evolution suggests something unsettling. The legend updates itself to remain terrifying. That adaptability is not common in static folklore. It behaves more like an organism responding to cultural shifts. And then there are the disappearances, rare, unconfirmed, but whispered about in online forums. Stories of someone performing the ritual alone and never leaving the bathroom. Police reports typically list mundane explanations: runaways, mental health crises. But in several accounts, mirrors in those homes were found cracked from the inside surface outward. Glass scattered away from the wall. Physics says impact must come from the front. Witnesses insist otherwise. By now, the pattern is clear. The ritual does not guarantee manifestation. It rarely produces dramatic supernatural displays. Instead, it plants something subtle, a fracture in perception, a doubt in reflection. The next time you brush your teeth at midnight, you might hesitate. You might look twice. And that hesitation, that lingering second, is where fear roots itself. Because Bloody Mary may not be about summoning. She may be about awareness. Once you've attempted the ritual, you become hyper-aware of mirrors. You stare longer. You analyze shadows. And in prolonged observation, the brain eventually misfires. The reflection shifts. And when it does, you will remember the name. And whether the cause is neurological or something far older, the result feels the same. You are no longer alone in the glass. In part 3, we investigate the darkest online recordings. The so-called 7-day smile, and the disturbing theory that Bloody Mary is not confined to mirrors anymore. Some believe she has migrated to screens, phones, selfie cameras, video calls at 3:33 a.m. And if that theory is true, then the doorway is no longer limited to bathrooms. It fits in your pocket. Subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a nightmare. Warning, if you are watching this on your phone, lower your brightness, because the legend of Bloody Mary may have evolved, and, if it has, the mirror is no longer made of glass. For decades, the ritual required darkness, a candle, and a bathroom mirror. Teenagers on forums described trying the Bloody Mary challenge using their phone's selfie camera at 3 a.m. Instead of candles, they used the faint blue glow of LCD light. Instead of cracked glass, they reported glitches, static flickers, brief facial distortions. Frames where their own smile lingered half a second too long. At first it was dismissed as compression artifacts, rolling shutter effects, low light noise, but the consistency of the reports made digital folklorists take notice. In 2014, a viral thread described a variation called Mary.exe. The instructions were disturbingly simple. Open your front camera in a dark room. Do not blink. Users claimed that on the third repetition, something subtle would change, not dramatically, not like a horror film, but enough to unsettle. Eyes slightly too deep. Most viewers watching playback found nothing unusual, but the person who recorded it often insisted the change happened in real time, not on video. That distinction is critical. It suggests the phenomenon may not be about capturing evidence, but about perception under stress. Yet some recordings did circulate briefly before being removed. One 2017 clip from Nevada showed a teenage boy performing the ritual alone in his bedroom. The room was nearly pitch black except for the screen glow, illuminating his face from below. He whispered the name once. On the third time, the screen flickered. For 2 frames barely visible, another face appeared overlaid on his own, pale. The video was analyzed and declared a likely editing hoax. But the boy later posted a follow-up claiming he did not remember editing anything. Within days, both videos were deleted. Skeptics argue digital artifacts can explain anything in low light, and they are correct, technically. But here is the psychological layer that complicates it. Humans are wired to detect faces, even where none exist. It's called pareidolia. However, pareidolia typically produces vague patterns, not consistent feminine apparitions, with long hair and hollow eyes, described across thousands of separate cases. If Bloody Mary has migrated into digital folklore, it would follow a familiar pattern: entities adapting to the medium most frequently used for reflection. In the 19th century it was polished silver mirrors. In the 20th century, bathroom glass. In the 21st century, front-facing cameras. Because what is a selfie screen, if not a modern mirror? There are darker accounts still. A 2020 incident during pandemic lockdown involved a group video call challenge, where participants attempted the ritual simultaneously from separate houses. Each person turned off their lights, leaving only screen glow. They counted down together and whispered her name. According to archived forum posts, one participant suddenly froze mid-sentence. His camera feed glitched when it stabilized. His face appeared blurred, while the background remained sharp. He did not respond to his friends calling his name for nearly 30 seconds. When he finally moved, he claimed his screen had gone black and he heard breathing that did not belong to him. The group laughed it off publicly. Privately, several members admitted they never tried the ritual again. There is another disturbing phenomenon reported in digital cases: delayed mimicry. Individuals claim that when they tilt their head, their reflection on screen continues moving for a fraction of a second after they stop. Subtle latency is common in video processing, but many insist the delay feels intentional, as if something is studying their movement before replicating it. In psychological experiments involving mirror exposure, prolonged self-staring can induce depersonalization, a sense of detachment from one's identity. Combine that with sleep deprivation, darkness, and suggestion, and the brain becomes primed to misinterpret minor glitches as external presence. But here's the unsettling twist. Even those who approach the ritual skeptically report discomfort after extended staring. Not immediate fear, just unease, a sense that the face on screen is slightly less cooperative than expected. In folklore, repetition strengthens belief. Every time someone attempts the ritual, whether in a bathroom or through a camera, the legend spreads, adapts, and embeds deeper into culture. Bloody Mary is no longer just a whispered dare. She is an algorithmic entity. Search her name, and thousands of challenge videos appear, some staged, and in each one, viewers stare intently at another human staring into a reflection, a chain of observation. Reflection within reflection. It mirrors a concept in paranormal theory known as recursive haunting, the idea that an entity strengthens each time it is observed through layered mediums, mirror to camera. In 2022, a digital anthropologist proposed that Bloody Mary represents collective anxiety about self-image. In the age of constant self-recording, the mirror no longer simply reflects, it broadcasts. And perhaps that is what makes the legend endure. It weaponizes the most ordinary act, looking at yourself. Whether supernatural or psychological, the result is consistent. Those who attempt the ritual report lingering discomfort around reflections. Some cover their phone cameras with tape. Others avoid mirrors at night. A few describe recurring dreams of being pulled forward, as if falling into glass that behaves like water. In those dreams, the other side is not empty. It is a corridor lined with mirrors, reflecting versions of themselves that do not blink. And at the end of that corridor stands a woman whose mouth opens wider than anatomy allows. The most chilling adaptation of the legend is the 7-day smile, whispered in online horror circles. It claims that if Bloody Mary appears smiling during the ritual, whether in mirror or screen, the participant will see that same smile in every reflection for 7 consecutive nights before something irreversible happens. No official reports confirm such outcomes, but the rumor spreads, as all effective folklore does, because it preys on repetition. You check once, and each time you look, you reinforce the narrative. By now, one truth is clear: Bloody Mary is not fading, she is evolving, from candlelight to camera light. And if the legend truly adapts to its environment, then the modern world, with its endless reflective surfaces, has more doorways than ever before. In Part 4, we uncover the darkest recorded cases, including alleged mirror-induced psychosis, unexplained lacerations. Subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a nightmare. Warning: this part contains accounts of psychological breakdown, self-inflicted harm, and disturbing mirror-related incidents. If you are alone in a dark room right now, turn on a light, because what we're about to discuss is where the legend of Bloody Mary stops feeling like folklore and starts feeling like infection. By the late 2000s, scattered case reports began surfacing online under obscure paranormal forums and archived message board stories, not of momentary fright, but of prolonged behavioral change following the ritual. Unlike earlier tales of fleeting apparitions, these accounts described something attaching itself to the witness not physically, but perceptually. Individuals reported that mirrors began triggering intense dread, even in daylight. Some claimed reflections appeared subtly hostile, not distorted, not monstrous, just wrong in expression. a neutral face that looked aware. In 2008, a college student in Michigan attempted the ritual alone as part of a skepticism blog experiment. According to archived screenshots of his posts, nothing happened during the summoning. He mocked the legend publicly, but over the next week, his tone shifted. He wrote that mirrors in his apartment felt delayed, that when he brushed his teeth, his reflection occasionally stopped moving for a fraction of a second before snapping back in sync. Commenters accused him of fabricating for attention. Then he posted something that unsettled even skeptics. It smiled before I did. The blog went silent 3 days later. Friends later stated he withdrew socially and refused to sleep facing reflective surfaces. No official psychiatric record links his condition to the ritual, but folklore does not require official validation. It requires repetition, and repetition was happening. A 2012 incident in Arizona involved a 16-year-old who reportedly scratched his own forearms after claiming a woman in the mirror was trying to get out. Medical professionals diagnosed acute stress reaction combined with sleep deprivation. Yet hospital staff quietly noted the pattern of wounds, 3 parallel lacerations on both arms, symmetrical. The patient insisted he did not remember making them. In many Bloody Mary narratives, the number 3 appears again and again. 3 chants, 3 scratches, 3 knocks. In occult symbolism, 3 often represents invocation or manifestation. Whether coincidence or psychological imprinting, the pattern persists. What makes these later cases more disturbing is the theme of persistence. Witnesses describe the sensation not as being attacked, but being observed continuously. A feeling that reflective surfaces have depth beyond their physical thickness. In 2015, a therapist in Oregon anonymously shared a case during a conference discussing adolescent folklore impact. A patient claimed that after performing the ritual, she began experiencing what she described as mirror lag episodes. She would walk past a reflective surface and perceive, out of peripheral vision, her reflection still standing still for a fraction of a second after she moved on. When she turned to look directly, it corrected instantly. Hallucination? Possibly. But the brain's visual system is highly susceptible to suggestion when expectation is primed. The ritual plants the idea that something might appear. Once that idea is embedded, the mind searches for confirmation, and sometimes it finds it. But here's where the line between psychological and paranormal blurs further. In several accounts spanning from California to Pennsylvania, witnesses claimed that covering mirrors after attempting the ritual intensified activity rather than calming it. They reported hearing tapping from behind the covered glass, soft, rhythmic, always in sets of 3. Paranormal investigators who explored such cases found no structural explanation, though skeptics argue thermal expansion, plumbing vibrations, and house-settling noises could account for the sounds. Yet the witnesses insisted the tapping only began after invoking her name, and it stopped when they removed or discarded the mirror entirely. There is an older theory, predating American urban legend, that may provide unsettling context. Across multiple cultures, not just in the United States, mirrors have been considered spiritual thresholds. In some Jewish mourning traditions, mirrors are covered during Shiva to prevent distraction and possibly to avoid inviting wandering spirits. In certain Appalachian folk beliefs, mirrors facing each other were avoided because they were thought to create an endless corridor for spirits to travel. Bloody Mary may not be a singular entity at all. She may be the name given to whatever answers when the threshold is intentionally tested. And perhaps that is why descriptions vary slightly across decades, while maintaining core traits. Pale female figure, distorted mouth, hollow or shadowed eyes, proximity behind the witness. If this phenomenon were purely neurological, we would expect highly individualized hallucinations. Instead, we see thematic consistency. That consistency is what keeps researchers uneasy. In 2019, a paranormal podcast documented a case in which a man claimed his bathroom mirror cracked spontaneously 3 nights after performing the ritual as a joke. No impact point was found. Glass fragments scattered outward across the sink, not inward toward the wall. Structural engineers reviewing photos suggested temperature stress, but the homeowner insisted the room had been climate-controlled and untouched. He admitted he had felt watched during showers in the days prior. Again, anecdotal. Again, unverified. Yet repetition fuels legend. The darkest accounts, however, are those involving what some online communities call reflection refusal. In these cases, witnesses report briefly losing their reflection entirely, not in total invisibility, but in distortion so severe that the face becomes unrecognizable, a blank smear where features should be. These episodes reportedly last seconds. Doctors attribute such experiences to dissociation under anxiety spikes, but folklore interprets it differently. If she takes your place in the glass, even for a moment, you are no longer alone in your own image. Perhaps the most disturbing evolution of the legend is the theory that Bloody Mary does not attack immediately, because immediate terror ends curiosity. Instead, she lingers, subtle, peripheral, feeding on attention. Every time you check your reflection to see if something is wrong, you strengthen the neural pathway associated with the fear. And fear, once conditioned, becomes self-sustaining. Whether entity or psychological echo, the result is identical. Mirrors stop feeling neutral. They become charged. And when ordinary objects become charged with expectation, the mind and maybe something else. In Part 5, we confront the origin question directly. Not the royal nickname, not the online challenge, but the possibility that Bloody Mary is a modern mask for something ancient, an archetype that predates the United States itself. We examine rituals summoning parallels across cultures and the chilling idea that reflections have always been doors. We just forgot how to close them. Subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a nightmare. Final warning: after this episode ends, you will look at your reflection differently, and once that changes, it does not fully go back. Because the final question surrounding Bloody Mary is not whether she is real, it is whether she was ever meant to have a name at all. Across human history, long before the United States existed, long before bathroom mirrors and sleepover dares, reflective surfaces carried spiritual weight. Still water, polished metal, obsidian stone, in ancient Mesoamerican ritual practice, obsidian mirrors were believed to function as portals for communication with entities beyond the physical world. In certain European folk traditions, mirrors were covered during storms to prevent spirits from crossing into the home. Even in early American Appalachian belief systems, two mirrors facing each other were avoided, said to create an infinite corridor through which something unseen could travel. The idea that a mirror is more than glass is not new. It is ancient. Bloody Mary may simply be the modern mask placed over that older fear, the fear that when you stare long enough into your own reflection, something else stares back. Consider this. The ritual requires darkness, repetition, and direct eye contact with oneself. Psychologically, that combination destabilizes perception. Neurologically, prolonged eye fixation in dim light induces mild dissociation. But culturally, ritual repetition is also how humans have historically opened thresholds, chanting names, invoking spirits, focusing intention. The Bloody Mary game unknowingly mimics ceremonial structure. It has rules, it has timing, it has invocation, and it has consequence narratives passed down through generations. In folklore theory, when a ritual persists for decades without institutional reinforcement, it suggests that the experience associated with it is emotionally powerful enough to sustain itself. Children in the 1970s performed it. Teenagers in the 1990s performed it. Digital age users perform it on front cameras today. The medium changes, the reaction does not. A jolt of dread, a lingering discomfort, a subtle distrust of mirrors afterward. That consistency forces one final possibility into consideration. Perhaps Bloody Mary is not a ghost bound to one identity. Perhaps she is an archetype and echo of something embedded in human cognition tied specifically to reflection. Carl Jung described archetypes as inherited symbolic patterns shared across cultures. The shadow self, the double, the doppelganger. In many mythologies, encountering one's double was considered an omen of death. Bloody Mary could be the ritualized confrontation with the shadow self-actualized, feminized, bloodstained, given a name children would dare to say. But what if that archetype is not purely psychological? What if it represents a liminal state where perception becomes porous? In multiple documented Bloody Mary accounts, witnesses describe not seeing a full-bodied apparition, but rather noticing a misalignment, eyes slightly deeper, smile slightly wrong, reflection lagging half a breath behind, subtle, almost plausible as neurological artifact, yet the emotional reaction is immediate and primal. Fear that feels external, not imagined. And fear is a survival response to perceived threat. The brain does not easily generate that level of alarm without stimulus. Some paranormal theorists propose that reflective surfaces act as symbolic boundaries between internal and external awareness. When someone stands in darkness and repeats a name, they focus attention intensely on that boundary. Attention itself becomes the key. The longer you stare, the more your brain attempts to reconcile minor visual inconsistencies, and when it cannot, it invents or reveals something to fill the gap. That gap is where Bloody Mary lives, not necessarily as a singular spirit, but as a manifestation of threshold instability. Consider the pattern: 3 repetitions, 3 scratches, 3 knocks. Across cultures, the number 3 represents transition, beginning, middle, end. Invocation, manifestation, consequence. Even in Christian tradition within the United States, repetition 3 times carries spiritual weight. The ritual unconsciously mirrors ancient summoning structure. Whether children know it or not, they are performing a structured invocation when they chant her name. The reason the legend persists may be because the ritual reliably produces an altered state of perception. And once someone experiences even a brief distortion in their own reflection, the story cements itself as truth in memory. Fear reinforces memories stronger than ordinary events. That is how legends survive. But there is one final detail, whispered in darker corners of online communities. The idea that Bloody Mary does not require chanting anymore. Some claim that once the concept has entered collective consciousness deeply enough, prolonged staring alone can trigger the effect. No name necessary, no candle required, just darkness and reflection. If that theory holds, then the legend has evolved beyond ritual into ambient presence. And that possibility is what makes this episode end without comfort. Because unlike forest witches or desert shapeshifters, Bloody Mary requires no travel. She requires no cursed artifact. She exists wherever there is reflection. Bathroom mirrors, elevator doors, black phone screens at midnight, even the faint outline of your face in a dark window. The doorway is everywhere, and unlike doors made of wood or steel, mirrors have no handle on the other side. If something presses against them, you cannot see it until it decides to show itself. Whether psychological phenomenon or something older wearing modern folklore as camouflage, the effect remains powerful. People who attempt the ritual rarely attempt it twice. They laugh beforehand, they hesitate afterward, and hesitation is the seed of belief. The most chilling aspect of Bloody Mary is not the scream, the scratch, or the shattered glass. It is the subtle erosion of certainty. After hearing these accounts, the next time you pass a mirror in low light, you will look longer than usual. You will check if your smile matches. You will make sure your eyes blink at the same time, and for a fraction of a second, barely measurably, you may wonder if the reflection is choosing to cooperate. That wonder is the legend's true success, because once doubt exists, the ritual no longer needs to be performed. The mirror itself becomes enough. This concludes episode 7 of Tales of the Dark. Some legends chase you through forests, some stalk you across deserts, and some wait quietly in the most ordinary object in your home. Tonight, when the lights are off and your screen goes black, resist the urge to look too closely, because if you stare long enough, the doorway may realize you're paying attention, and it may decide to answer. Subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a nightmare.